Good morning, my beloved family. We have now reached to stage 4 of our stages of faith. So let's recap. Stage 1 is powerlessness, recognition of God. This is where we discover that we have a purpose and we are loved. Stage 2 is power by association, that is the life of discipleship. In this stage, we are learning about God. I spent nearly 12 to 13 years in these two stages, going between them over and over. I had an encounter with God and got to know that my life has a purpose and I am loved no matter what. Yet at that time, I allowed myself to be pulled back by the realities of my life, my work, and thus I used to fluctuate between these two stages for almost 13 years. It is then I entered stage 3. Stage 3 is power by achievement, that is the productive life. We are serving God through our gifts and talents. Today, we'll see stage 4, that is the power by reflection, the journey inward. Now, stage 4, the journey inward, is aptly described by its title, for it is a deep and very personal. It is almost always comes as an unsettling experience, yet result in healing for those who continue the journey through it. Until now, our journey has had an external dimension to it. Our life of faith was more visible through our work in ministry, our walk of faith, our leadership, and the display of the use of our spiritual gifts. At this stage, we face an abrupt change, at least many do, to almost opposite mode. It's a mode of questioning, exploring, falling apart, doubting, dancing around the real issues, sinking in uncertainty, and indulging in the self-centeredness. We often look hopeless to those around us. A symbolic name for people in this stage is the vertical people. It is the time when the issues go primarily up and down between us and God. Others may be involved, but the focus is on the issues, battle, healing, and resolution in your relationship with God. It becomes painfully clear in this stage that the answers we seek must come from God. Let's see the characteristics of the stage 4, that is the life of faith crisis. Most of us are so comfortable and self-sufficient at the previous stage 3, that is the productive or fruitful life, that we have no natural tendency to move at all. In fact, stage 4 does not even look like a part of the journey to those of us who are at home in stage 3. It does not appear that we need to move up in our faith and growth. When this stage comes, many feel propelled into it by an event outside themselves. It's usually a crisis that turns our world upside down. When the event or crisis happens close to our core, for example, our children, spouse, work, or health, it feels like the first time our faith does not seem to work. We feel alone, immobilized, unsuccessful, hurt, ashamed. Neither our faith nor God provides what we need to soothe us, to heal us, to answer our prayers, to fulfill our wishes, to change our circumstances and solve our problems. Our formula of faith, whatever that may have been, does not work anymore. We are stumped, hurting, angry, and feel betrayed and abandoned. Many simply want to give it up. It appears that our life of faith may even seem to have been a fraud at worst, a mirage at best. Some enter this stage of the journey through a crisis in their faith life more than in their personal lives. One crisis can shake the foundation block of our faith life and everything comes crumbling down. Let me share one more example from the scriptures from the life of Peter. Peter's life may best illustrate how crisis throws everything out of order. Peter had left family, home, and business to follow Jesus, as we read in Mark chapter 1, verse 16 to 18, and chapter 10, verse 28. In front of Jesus and all of his friends, he came with assurance to confess Jesus to be the expected Messiah, as we read it in Mark chapter 8, verse 29. Suddenly, on the Good Friday, the answers did not fit. He and his friends were so certain of who Jesus was and was to do in Jerusalem that they could not comprehend those warning about the pending disaster. The arrest of Jesus placed in jeopardy all of Peter's belief about what God was doing through Jesus. Disappointed, confused, and maybe even a little angry, Peter abandoned Jesus and then denied of any knowledge of him, as we read in Mark chapter 14 from verse 66 to 72. His tears reflected his brokenness. Sometimes we experience crisis in our personal life too. A lost job, broken marriage, serious accident that changed our life-ailing illness, stuck opportunities, loss of a loved one. Now the impact of these incidents and situation is not temporary, but it continues for a long time that we find it difficult to see a ray of hope at the end of a tunnel. We start to question God's presence in our life even after serving Him with the best of our abilities and time. It appears that we are in the spiritual dry spell. Let me share the testimony from my own life. As I continued my journey into stage 3, the productive life, I enjoyed success in both physical and spiritual life. As an elder of the church in Kenya, I was exposed to fellowship with other elders with whom I was being mentored, and I was always available for the ministry work. At workplace, I was promoted to be the head of department over the entire Sub-Saharan Africa region for Ericsson as the head of their processes and tools. In short, I was at the pinnacle in both of my physical and spiritual life. And this is also a typical fruit of stage 3. Then came December 2016 after the successful outreach through Christmas carols where about 40 to 50 non-Christian friends attended. We were looking forward for a restful Christmas holidays. And then I received a call from my manager stating that due to changing working situation, they had to let me go. And my last date in the organization would be 31st December. Now imagine I was being relieved from my work within 20 days with no notice, even after working for them for more than 15 years and achieved one of the best results in my work. We were shocked and could not comprehend as to what is happening and why it's happening, especially when I was doing everything for the Lord, giving my time, my energies, my finances, and yet I was thinking, why am I treated like this? Doesn't it remind us of the similar situation of Job? Job was a successful, obedient, and God-fearing man. He was like the Tatas and Birlas of his time. In the span of one day, Job loses everything. And in our terms, he goes bankrupt in one day, losing everything. Not just bankrupt, he loses all his 10 children in one day. He and his wife go into such a shock that Job's wife tells him to blame God and just die. It is in such a fragile state we hit the wall. Stay tuned for my next Daily Byte on the wall. Now, the wall is a place where we take our solitary journey with God. Some call it the dark night of the soul. Are you currently feeling God has abandoned you in your crisis? I don't think so. Spend time in prayer. And let me today reassure you with the word of God from Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. It says, "It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed." With that assurance, have a blessed day ahead.